Okay, we're now going to look at the Circle by Don Paterson, and it really continues a lot of the same themes as some of the other poetry that we've looked at. Um, he begins by begins by talking about his son. He begins by talking about his son, and essentially laying out the speaker's love for his son. Thankfully, it's not it's not weird like the other poem, which is very strange. It's not weird like that, but anyway, he lays out sort of begins with the love that he has for his son, which is nice, and then the poem again turns its attention to some of the themes which have been sort of discussed before, which is the idea of you know, sort of tackling existential questions uh about life, about existence, about humanity and its relationship to the universe. And the perspective he kind of takes here is he's gonna take a sort of a sort of deterministic uh a sort of deterministic perspective combined with a sort of positive and I don't know what the word is, but basically the idea that we're like tapped into everything and we are part of the big picture, but we're also sort of special in some kind of way. So he's gonna combine two different um lenses or ways of looking at life, reality, and existence. Which he kind of does also, if you think about the other poems that I've sort of explained, like what he did with the Rain poem, um, taking nihilism and then combining it with the sort of positive existentialism. He's kind of doing the same thing here, taking things which they don't necessarily fit together and sort of combining them. Um, so here he's taking a sort of determinism with a sort of, I don't know, it's almost like a humanism or like he's basically taking determinism is the idea that everything is determined and therefore life we're all like robots that are just ticking along, um following preset following essentially preset paths that we have no free will, we have no free choice. That's determinism. He's taking that and he's combining it when we get to the end, mentioning things like Krishna and mentioning things like the living word, which is essentially a reference to Christ, which is like the opposite of determinism. It's more like a special humanism in that it's almost like a call to the divinity of the human being, that you are special and you have complete free will, essentially, that you are associated and tied into God in some way. And so you're not just a machine or a robot, but you are in fact God-like. Some of you're God, what's the word, what is it? Uh, we are made in the image of God, that you have special powers. Essentially, you're special in some way that goes beyond your mere material. So again, he's taking things which kind of clash, which don't really fit philosophically, but he's combining them, which is fine. Which is fine. To be honest, it's better than just being a strict determinist. I think it's better. It's fine. But okay, fine. Let's look at it. So he says, he begins. My boy is painting outer space and steadies his brush tip to trace the comets, planets, moon, and sun, and all the circuitry they run. So he begins combining his son with the imagery of the universe and space and so on. And also he combines his son with a creative action, which is painting. So he is combining, and creativity or creation is probably the fundamental, maybe beyond love, but creativity is probably the fundamental power of God, if you want to say. What is the fundamental power of God? It is creativity. It is to create. That is the fundamental power of divinity, of the divine. In that, only God can create. That's like the idea. Because essentially, anything else beyond God doesn't create, but just puts things together that are already created. So he's tying his son to the act of creation, to the universe. So he's setting this off in a very kind of spiritual or biblical, even religious type sentiments, tone, imagery, if you like, um, to begin. In one great heavenly design, again, same theme, design, heavenly, you get the point. But when he tries to close the line, he draws around his upturned cup, his hand shakes, and he screws it up. So now he brings in the human. He brings in the human. So creativity, like I said, is fundamentally associated with divinity and God. And it's always been this way as far as I know. Even the most classic poetry that we have, like Homer, uh, it starts with a prayer, basically a prayer to the muses, meaning the goddesses, um, or the forces, the divine forces of creativity, to give him blessings when he's about to write his poetry. And it matches in with, what we feel when we listen to great music or watch great films or read great writing, how we feel sort of like moved by it. And the idea would be that that feeling of being moved is your soul being moved by the divinity of whatever it is that you're listening to or hearing. Um, which is why you can be moved by it such that it can change your life, or it can help you heal you in different times. But the fundamental you know, quality of being human is to be essentially to be incomplete in some way, to be incomplete in some way. So when someone says, "I'm human," what when they usually say that is it's when they're usually talking about some mistake that they've made or some error that they've made. Because to be human, I believe there's even a quote, to be human is to err, to make errors essentially. To be human is to make errors, to make mistakes, and to forgive is divine. I think that's the full quote. But the point is that human beings make mistakes. And so what he's doing is he is combining, I guess quite nicely, he's combining between the sun, divinity, creation, creativity, and the universe and the human being. He's taken essentially the story of, you could say, like Genesis, or like it's probably even older than Genesis. And he's taken the classic story of man and God and the universe, divinity if you want to use that instead, and the universe, and he's combined them here in this image, yeah, basically. It's essentially the human being imitating uh, the human being imitating the divine, the human imitating the divine. That's what he's doing here. When you paint something, when you create something, you are imitating the source of creation and creativity, which is the divine. Um, this Shakes as old as he is. All thank God. Again, reference to God here. His body can recall of that hour. That hour is a reference as well, spiritual reference. When 1 inch from home, we couldn't get the air to him. Flawed again. And though today he's all the earth and sky for breathing space and breath, the whole, and again, breath is a classic religious, theological idea that to be given the breath of God is how Adam was made at, that God breathed into Adam, and that's how he became alive. The divine breath, the whole troposphere can't cure. That's the atmosphere. The flutter in his signature, the sky, basically. And what he's doing here, he's all the earth and the sky. He's setting up what he's about to do next, which is to start introducing. So everything here has been the idea of special humanity, if you want to call it that. It's the idea that human beings have a soul, or that they are more than just material atoms and, physical physics, if you want to say. That they are more than that, more than material, more than chemistry, more than biology, that they have something beyond them, some spiritual dimension, that they are connected to the divine, the infinite, that they have some infinity about them. That's what he's been setting up. And these are all very classic spiritual, religious ideas. Okay, what he's about to do in a minute is he's about to take this and shift his attention to now looking at the relationship between human beings and the universe directly, and looking at human beings as sort of a product of the universe, or being connected to the universe in some way. Okay, but Jamie, nothing's what we meant. I guess that's the name of his son, Jamie. Nothing's what we meant. So this should be the first. The dream is taxed. We all resent the quarter bled off by the dark between the bowstring and the mark. So when you pull a bowstring and you let it go, there is the quarter bled off by the dark between the bowstring and the mark. There is you pull the arrow, you let it go. There is a path which is undefined and which is mysterious. Essentially, you don't know if the arrow is going to hit the target. And so this is the first. This is the first. What? This is the first reference, I guess, now to the deterministic idea or the lack of free will idea, the taking away from the specialness or the divinity of the human being. In that, the boy was painting at the beginning, and painting again is a creative act. He's mimicking the divine, essentially, mimicking divinity by creating. Okay. Then the boy was made to be human. Okay, so as he's gone from being like mimicking the perfect creator or perfect creativity to being human, his creation is like flawed. Okay. Now he's gonna take that a step further and say not just that his creation is flawed, but that he like when you try and hit a target with an arrow, and the arrow you don't know if it's gonna hit or not because it's out of your control. Now, not only is the creation flawed, but now the thing that he wants to create, uh, he doesn't even have the power actually to create what he wants. That it's like out of his hands to some extent. He like how you might want something, but whether you will get it or not is out of your hands. It's like an action of faith or a question of something beyond you, something beyond our hands. And so you aren't really a creator, like the divine. You're not creative in that way, but you're more like what are you more like now? You're more like someone who launches an arrow and then hopes for the best. But then he goes on and he takes it a step further to keep our arrows and trust to Krishna or fate to keep our arrows halfway straight. So you need to have some faith or something that you're hopefully things will work out for you. But the target also draws our aim, our will, and natures are the same. Our will and natures are the same. We are its living word and not a book it wrote and then forgot. Yes. Okay. So then he takes it a step further. Okay, and he says that now not only is it that you are enacting something that you want, in other words, you pick the target and then you shoot your arrow at it and then hope that it lands. But now he's saying that actually the target has picked you and that you yourself did not pick the target in the first place, but that the target picked you and that you yourself picked it because you were compelled to. In other words, that you now have not only like the will to do something and then hope that it happens, but you now, in fact, there's a question about do you even have any will at all? Do you have free will or not? Um, in that the target is picking you, in that, and then he goes on and he says the will, our will and natures are the same, meaning that now he's taking the human being and he's taking them away from the idea of being special human, divine human, and now he's saying that they are natural human, that they are essentially product, or we are essentially a product of the universe. In other words, that just like how a star goes and spins in a certain way, and that the planets around the star they spin in a certain way and they revolve around the star and they have no choice in the matter. The star essentially makes them spin, and the planets will go around these stars and spin this way because of the star. So even if the planet had a brain and the planet thought that I'm moving around the star because I want to, what he's introducing here is, like I said, is a sort of determinism where the star itself is compelling the planet to spin, and it doesn't really matter what the planet thinks. It's just the spinning, and it has no choice in the matter. Just like how you think that you chose the target to shoot your arrow at, but no, in fact, you chose that target because of something bigger than you, something greater than you. This idea of like destiny or predestination. And so you are essentially just following along like a tree growing in a certain place. You are following a plan which is bigger than you, which is the universal sort of structure or the universal um, not even a plan yet, but the universal machine, if you like, and you're just a part of that machine. So again, it kind of contradicts what he started with. It contradicts, where he began, in that he began with, again, a reference to the word, or sorry, reference to creativity and to the divine and to us being sort of able to mimic the divine, even just in a human way, in that we can try and mimic the divine through our creativity, even though our creativity is going to be flawed in some way because we're not divine, or we are divine, but we're not like fully divine, that we have a piece of divinity inside of us, but we don't have full divinity, and so we can mimic things, but they're going to be flawed in some ways. He went from that sort of, which would mean that you have free will, you have choice, you can do things, to sort of now he's in a deterministic space where you have no choice, you have no free will, but now you're just flowing along with the universe, and you, even if you think you have choice, but you actually don't. We are its living word and not a book it wrote and then forgot. And also now he's giving consciousness to the universe. He's giving a mind to the universe, which again, in some sense, contradicts or conflicts with maybe where he started from, where you're giving a mind to divinity. Now he's making the universe itself divine. It's 14 billion year old song inscribed in both are right and wrong. And again, this is the classic deterministic perspective, in that there is no right and wrong. Why do you call it deterministic? Why is that? Why is it called determinism or determinist? It's because things have been determined, meaning decided, meaning you had no choice. You had no choice, like that. So you're like a machine, a robot. So even when you, and so there is no right and wrong, basically, because obviously morality is a product of choice, free will. So even when you rage and moan and bring your fist down like a stone on your spoiled work and useless kit, you just can't help but broadcast it. And so again, now he's kind of contradicting where he started from with the beauty of his sons. I don't know if, I don't know, yeah, maybe, am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe he just didn't realize this. Maybe I'm reading it incorrectly. I don't know yet, but, it'd be good to talk to this brother, yeah, and just, I don't know, man, because it's complete contradiction from where he started. It's complete contradiction to where he is, yeah. It's like they don't match yet. Or maybe this was his intention. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know yet. But it's philosophically, it's completely contradictory to where he started from. The position there is different from. It's not just different, but it's like completely at odds of this position. They're not. They're not compatible, basically. Uh, I was gonna say, because basically it begins with talking about his son and his painting and all. That's a beautiful kind of moment. And now he's calling it spoiled work, useless kit. uh, that the work is not really great, basically. Look at the little avatar. Avatar is a word which means incarnated deity. That's avatar. So basically, um, um, like how people talk about Jesus, Jesus would be an avatar of the Father, basically. That's like avatar. Or there's been many, there's been many different types of avatars believed in over time. Especially in Hinduism, there's many avatars. It's basically, this is the point, is that this is supposed to be like an incarnation, meaning that this is the human god on earth. This is the god going into human form and then living among human beings. That's like an avatar. So look at this little avatar. So again, he's now returning the divinity, except he's saying that you are the little avatar of the universe. So he's saying that we are the living embodiment of the universe, which is a very nice idea, of your muddy water jar, filling with the perfect rings, singing under everything. Saying that we are the incarnation of the universe, that we are a product of the universe, and that we are part of it. Um, which is nice, huh? Sounds very nice, but again, the problem with, and this would be fine. This would be fine. But the problem with him saying inscribed in both are right and wrong, and the problem with him saying our will and natures are the same. The problem with this is, though I would agree with him that we are essentially a product of nature, I would disagree with him in terms of his deterministic take, in that In that, if you have a deterministic, and the real truth is that no one really believes in determinism yet. If you think about it, no one actually believes that you have no free will yet. It's like extremely small number of people, and even the people who would proclaim to believe that you have no free will, they don't actually act or behave that way, which would lead me to think that they don't. The ones who do act and behave that way, we end up putting them in jail yet because they they end up committing crimes which are insanely horrible, basically. Like, if you truly believe that you have no free will and you have no free choice and that no one has any free will or free choice, then there is no wrong for you to shoot somebody or rape someone or to do anything. There is no wrong, basically, because anything that you do is not your choice. And so it's okay that you did it, basically, because you can't be blamed for something that's not your choice, right? Like, if I if I take your hand and I put a gun in it and say you can't control your arm for a second. Say I take someone who has a disability in their hand or in their arm or their upper body, I'll make it even more. Sorry, they have a disability in their body completely. I'll make it more. Disability in their body. Okay. Then I take their hand, I put a gun in it, and pull the trigger and I make them shoot somebody and then they kill the other person. Can you put them in jail for killing someone? No, yeah, obviously not. Why? Because they had no ability to not do that. I forced them to do it, right? So the problem with the no free will argument or the deterministic argument, though it sounds very, fancy and nice and it sounds like you're smart or something. Science people try and take it. I'm a scientist. I'm not. Da, da, da. But the problem is, if you take that argument, then there is no unethical action. There is nothing that's wrong, basically, because everyone is being forced. Like me pulling the trigger on the person who has a disability, everyone is being forced to do things, and they have no control and no choice. So why there is no idea? There's no point of having a prison or anything like that. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Education is pointless. You can't ever change anyone from doing anything. Everything essentially is pointless, yeah, and meaningless and hopeless. And no one really believes that yet. No one actually acts on that or believes that. Everyone who says these things, then in the next minute, they'll say we need to push scientific education. We need to try and uplift people who are being oppressed, by this religion or that religion, or we need to basically work for human rights and all that. Yeah. So no one really believes this. What people actually believe, which is the correct perspective, I would argue, which is the truthful perspective, is that we are products of the universe and it's a beautiful thing. We're connected to everything. Yes. But at the same time, we have something special about us, some divinity inside of us or about us, some infinity about us, which gives us ability to choose. Yeah. We have some ability to make choices and to do things. Yeah. We have a spark of creativity and divinity about us, which we can do things, which is why we can act ethically and morally and be kind and loving and all that. And we can tie ourselves to something bigger and we can all be connected as human beings in a really big and sort of meaningful way, which we can feel at this our core of our soul. Or we can act in an extremely evil way and we can harm people and we can create massive damage to people and it's like a real evil and it's like a real bad thing. So I would say the poem is yeah, the poem. To be honest, it's good. Yeah, I don't want to be critical yet. To be honest, it's good because it opens up, it allows me to talk about things, which is good. So I guess it's something to be, I can't be too critical yet. It's worthwhile knowing it that no one is really a determinist, and no one is really anti-free will or anti-free choice. Even if they might say that, yeah, if you actually ask them about it and you'd look at how they live and stuff, people don't really believe that. And that's good. Yeah, basically. Okay, only one more to do. Thank God. And that's it. Yeah. Okay, good.